So your manager asks you for an estimate to a project, and you give him, here you go, this is going to take 2 weeks of time. And your manager goes, that's too long. How come it takes 2 weeks? It is such an easy work. It should be done in 1 week. Okay, manager, I can do it in a week. And then the work doesn't get done in a week because it is underestimated. You said yes when you really meant no, and that costed you your reputation and the project not being delivered in time. Have you ever faced such scenario? In this video, we will explore how to say no when you meant no. My name is Aditya Gute, speaker and a career performance hacker for engineers. In this video, we will go 3 levels deep to understand the motivations and fears behind why people say yes when they really meant no. Going deeper to understand the deeper fears and motivations is called inner game of communication. With inner game of communication, you go deeper so you can create lasting results. The surface level strategy is that to say no when you really meant no. Well, you can force yourself to say no, but it might not last and it can be really hard because you're pushing yourself to say no, and that might not work when you're pushing yourself to say no. And that's why with inner game of communication we go deeper. If you go deeper, engineers say yes when they really mean no is because they're afraid they'll be perceived as incompetent by their manager. And so they might be inclined to say yes when they really meant no. There you go. We went a level deeper to understand what motivates engineers to say yes when they really mean no. In order to overcome that, you really have to address that fear of looking incompetent. Also, some other fears could be, oh my God, if he thinks I'm incompetent, will he put me on a performance improvement plan and eventually fire me? What if other colleagues perform better and I will never get promoted? Maybe other guys will get promoted. So all these fears that can keep you from saying no when you meant no. So the strategy here is to address these fears. How true is it that the manager will perceive you as incompetent? How true is it that he will fire you? How true is it that just because you said a no, someone else will be promoted? And by addressing these fears and by really understanding the assumptions, you can take a more powerful action. And if you really look at these fears rationally, it doesn't make much sense that the manager will perceive you as incompetent when you say a no and give him the estimate. Because here is the thing, a manager will always prefer to hear an honest and painful answer that something can be done when it can be done, instead of listening to a dishonest and maybe good to hear comforting answer that something can be done when it can be done. As far as being fired goes, it takes a lot for a manager to fire you. You must have screwed up something so royally in order to justify firing you. So just because you said no and gave the right estimate doesn't give any reason or validation for the manager to fire you. So that is also an unfounded fear. So in summary, we went a little deeper by realizing that the reason why people say yes when they really meant no is because they're afraid of being fired, being rejected, being considered incompetent, some irrational fears that make them conform and say yes. And we also saw that by applying this strategy to really understand the rationality behind the fears is how you can start saying no when you meant no. Maybe this going one level deep and this new strategy is a aha moment for you. If that is the case, put this technique into action and you can skip the rest of the video. If not, we are going to go another level deeper to understand what is behind these fears. So if you want to go one more level deeper, the reason why you're afraid that you might be considered incompetent is because you fundamentally believe you are incompetent. And if the other person does or says anything that alludes to you being incompetent, it merely is confirming the belief that you already accepted about yourself, that you are incompetent. If that makes sense, the strategy here is to acknowledge where you are truly and see your competency. When you can realize your self-worth and your competency, you will not look for validations from your colleagues or managers or anyone else to prove that you're competent, because you fundamentally believe and acknowledge your own competency. So that's going another level deep, which is realizing that the reason why you are getting triggered or have fears around being considered incompetent is that you fundamentally believe incompetent. So by creating a strategy to realize your competency, you can overcome being others treating you as incompetent. If going the second level deep helps you out, put the strategy in action and you can skip the rest of the video. If not, we will be going one more level deep to understand why we perceive ourselves as incompetent sometimes. The reason why you might be perceiving yourself as incompetent is because you have a certain expectation about how you should be perceived as. Maybe you heard this from others that you should be perceived as a Googler and a smart person because that's what people admire the most. So you're trying to be someone else, right? So you want to be perceived as competent in a certain way, and you have certain definition of what being competent means, and you're chasing that. So whenever you have an attachment to how things should look like and how you should be perceived as, it is hard to consider yourself competent because your bar is always higher. There's nothing wrong with creating your bar higher, but it has to start with self-acceptance. If you consider yourself incompetent and you want to become competent, it doesn't work. Instead, if you accept yourself as competent and you just want to achieve the other goal, not because it is better than you or it is because you will be considered a smart person or a competent person, but just because that's fun. And you let go of the attachment that it doesn't need to be that way, that you're completely happy with where you are. That's when you can let go of the attachment that things have to be a certain way, that you should be perceived as a certain way. When you can do that effectively and let go of that attachment to outcome, you will be fearless. You don't give the power to someone else to decide whether you're competent or not, because you fundamentally are happy and feeling comfortable with who you are and not looking for validation from others whether you're competent or not. So we just went 3 levels deep, and in the 3rd level we understood that it comes down to releasing attachment, that things have to be a certain way. When you release the attachment, you will be fearless because you're ready to accept anything that happens to you. Any outcome is an opportunity for you. In summary, in this video, we went 3 levels deep to understand why people say yes when they really mean no. There is no good level, right level, or the wrong level. Whatever the level you resonate with is the right level to you. So take appropriate actions. corresponding to the level you resonate with to create massive results. Thank you for watching. Leave in the comments below what level you most resonate with and what action you will be willing to take.